So, punters, our guest this week is the most famous head of hair in racing from the TAB and the Herald Sun. It's Nick Quinn. Welcome, Nick. How you going, mate?
Well, Damien, I'm a bit nervous about the hair, actually, mate, to be perfectly honest, because I put out a tweet that might come back to bite me in the bot when Marcus Bontempelli looked to have the Brownlow medal at his absolute mercy. The hair is going to be shaved, and I have to actually eat some of it if he doesn't win the Brownlow. And since that point in time, he's gone from a hot favourite at about $2 out to about $4 and barely got a kick after I put that out. So enjoy his hair while it lasts, although I must say it is in need of a bit of a cut and colour.
It's all happening. I mean, it's obviously you guys there, you're in, for viewers who don't know, Nick, you're in Melbourne, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. In Melbourne, hence the beautiful tan. The sun just coming out as we speak. So hopefully we can find a few winners at some of our local tracks in the next few weeks.
Right. And I was obviously referring to the fact that the hairdressers aren't out, as we are in here in Sydney. We haven't gone near the barber or the hairdresser, whatever you want to call them, since late June. So I don't think I've got the befont going like your good self, mate, but we all have our challenge, especially when it's like getting on to 3 months before we've had a clip.
Yeah, exactly. And it is one of those things people are rolling with. I mean, doing things like the Zoom calls, whether it's an interview like this or basically just having work meetings, you do sometimes see people looking a little bit dishevelled. So as soon as those hairdressers open up again, I know there'll be a bit of a stampede for business.
You won't be able to get near them. But look, obviously, Nick, very exciting time of the year. You can smell spring in the air. Mackay Diva States this weekend, Flemington headquarters. Although we won't have the crowd, we'll certainly have the excitement. The grass will be cut, the flowers will be blooming, all that great stuff. Happening. Look down the leaderboard for Flemington. Last 6 months, pretty much a good part of 2021. There's Nick Quinn with 35% profit on turnover. You're striking at one winner in three, with a nice average price of $4.11. So punters looking for someone to follow. You're certainly standing out like a sore thumb. Flemington being with those great stats, does that surprise you, mate?
Look, I do love Flemington, and I think one thing that certainly helps from a tipping and punting perspective is it's normally big fields and quality fields. So you might identify a favourite, but there's still going to be about $4 because there's a big field of opponents and whatnot. And the other thing I like is a lot of horses get set for races at Flemington. So a lot of times the horse might have had a couple of runs, then they go to Flemington on that beautiful spacious track with a few runs under the belt, peak fitness, peak distance, so you know that they're there to win. So I do love Flemington, but I think the thing that you mentioned about the winning starting price average is a good reflection on the fact that if you do find winners at Flemington, you're normally rewarded. Because as I said, even the popular favourites normally go around at around that $3 and $4 mark because the field sizes are so good and the competition is so strong. Sometimes at other venues across the country, you get smaller fields and therefore you're taking shorter quotes on the favourites. The other thing I like is that runners normally get their chance. They're normally big fields, run at a genuine tempo. It's such a spacious track as well that rarely do you encounter traffic problems. And the track staff do such a brilliant job as well that normally there's enough sting out of the ground to suit horses, and it certainly does take the rain well should rain hit. So punters that like to bet on horses that need that sort of jar out of the ground get that. But if you're backing a horse that could be their kryptonite, too much water on the ground, it normally levels itself out. So a few things that I do love about Flemington, and hopefully that luck can continue over the coming few weeks. Although this might be an early crow and a bit of a kiss of death. I might go totally cold after you give me a pat on the back.
Oh, look, we've had a few of your colleagues in the past who have said, I'm not coming back on if I don't go good after this. But look, we've generally not given people the kiss of death. So hopefully that stands tall there, Nick. Look, I just wanted to give punters a bit of an insight. I mean, you're doing lots of form during the week. You're pretty much appearing every day in the Herald Sun's columns there, doing it a lot, getting things right. Give us a bit of an insight into what goes into preparing for, and let's make it a Saturday race meeting. Obviously, a bit involved there. Can you just take us through the key steps, mate?
Yeah, I actually find it easier to do it every day as opposed to take a week off and then come back and pick up and try and catch up what you've missed. So what I do whenever there's racing, watch the races that night and then make notes on the horse. So next time that horse's name appears, I've got my notes ready to go. So that saves a lot of backtracking, and it's just constantly updating the information, and it's constantly evolving as you would expect. The challenges can be when there's horses that come from different form lines to race in Melbourne on a Saturday. And I do say Melbourne for me because that is the form area that I do cover in the paper each week. So if you've got horses from Sydney or this time of year, even from overseas, from Brisbane, from Perth, from Tassie even, then you've got to go back and look at the form. And that can be a challenge to assess not only how well the horse is going, how good the horse is, or potentially how that form will stack up, how they'll acclimatise and everything like that. And I know a lot of people do the form in Perth and they love it because you've basically got the same pool of horses every Saturday on basically identical track conditions each week, where with the Melbourne races, it's a little bit different to that. It can be a bit more of a challenge, but if you can find the winner, you can be more rewarded as well. So what I'll do on a Monday, I'll start to look at the nominations. I'll go back through my notes and there'll be a few horses that I don't have notes on. I probably haven't done the form on them before, and they are the horses that are coming to Melbourne for the first time. So I'll start watching a couple of replays, make a phone call or two to people that might be close to the horse to find things out, because a lot of times it's a really nice horse, but Saturday might not be the day. It might be the kickoff campaign. The horse might be a little bit pudgy. They might want to spike second or third or fourth up into the preparation. So take that intel into account. Now, does that mean that they don't come out and win? Absolutely not. And we all get it wrong. And a lot of times the trainers themselves get it wrong, where they've got a horse that they think will need 1 run or 2 runs or 3 runs sometimes before winning, and they come out and cause surprises. But what it does do is help identify which horses you think will be there to win on the day and come into market support on the day. So if you're doing the form initially on a Wednesday like I do, and you've got 2 horses that you do like, and they're both about $6, but you know one is absolutely there to win, and the other one is basically having a pipe opener ahead of runs down the track, the second horse is most likely going to be $6 out to 16, where the first one is going to be probably $6 into $4.60 or something like that. And that's good to get the ball rolling. If you want to put something in the paper, say punters, have something each way now at the $6. By race time, when it's halved its quote or firmed up a little bit, punters already feel like they've backed a winner.
Yeah,
conversely, if you still like that horse that a lot of people are not going to like for those circumstances, you can put something in your column, which I do say, wait till Saturday. Don't like the quote now. Have something late. Or if the horse gets out to a big quote, have something on. But doing the tips early has its upsides and its challenges. The challenges are sometimes by Saturday circumstances have changed. You might have liked a horse on Wednesday night or Thursday morning when you do submit your tips. So I do a column on Wednesday for Thursday's paper, and then Thursday morning I submit all my selections 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each race in the Metro meeting in Melbourne each Saturday. So sometimes things change. I might have tipped a horse and then there's unexpected rain and whatnot, and then I'm thinking this horse is no good on the rain, and unfortunately then there's not a lot you can do. Sometimes you just cross your fingers, they scratch, and then your second selection gets elevated. But most of the time, it's good.
What about ringing up the editor, Nick, and get it twisting his arm and getting him to update the tip for you?
I've done that rarely, very, very rarely, and that's the only time I have done it, when I've done the form for a good track, and then by race day it's going to be heavy. So I reckon I started tipping when Efficient won the Melbourne Cup, so it was that 2007 in the Herald Sun, and I reckon I've changed my tips maybe 3 times in total, and that's only one horse, because just for those reasons you mentioned, the fact that things have totally changed by the time the Saturday comes around. I don't like to do it because, A, you got to stick to your convictions, and B, if someone reads the paper on a Friday morning and then goes and has $5 on a horse because you've tipped it, they don't want you then changing your mind. They've already had their bet, so you feel like you're letting the readers down by doing that as well. So very, very, very rarely will I do that, only under sort of extreme circumstances.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. There's a couple of interesting things when you went through your approach there, Nick. The first one that comes to mind is, the trainers sometimes get it wrong. I mean, how many times do you see on social media punter ripping into the trainer, saying, trainer said he was ready and the horse wasn't, or vice versa. Trainer said he'll need a few runs and he turns up and wins. I suppose that gives us an insight that trainers are actually human. They get it wrong.
And that's the best thing about it. And you might like a horse, or anyone at home might like a horse on the Saturday, and the trainer might get it wrong. So don't doubt yourself. If you like a horse for any reason, definitely have something on. I think long term, it certainly helps to get as much intel as possible and do all the research. But we've all seen it. We've all been at the races, and someone will say, I like this horse because of the jockey silks or the name or something like that, and that will be the one that wins. Yes, it does happen, but over the course of a long period of time, I think trusting a process and sticking to a formula is definitely the way to go. Having said that, though, if you do like a horse, don't get talked out of it. I always listen to other people. I take that into account. But if I like a horse, I'm the one that's making the tips. I'm the one that's placing my money. So at the end of the day, you've got to be your own judge. A lot of people will say, oh, I like this horse, but you guys didn't tip it. I said, don't worry about that. If you like it for whatever reason, you back yourself in because you're working off the same info as us.
Absolutely. No, it makes sense. And look, the other thing I noted there, Quinny, in your approach is it sounds like you got the Quinny database stick there. So that's an interesting one. And I think the other thing overlaying on top of that is the sort of information, the access you've got to trainers and so forth. I mean, readers of the Herald Sun may not always be aware, might be just thinking, you're sort of going off a provided database or whatever it might be. So that's invaluable. Look, as a retail punter myself, I certainly don't have those contacts, and to be able to get that and get I guess the benefit of that those contacts by just reading the Herald Sun and wherever else it's published through the TAB network.
Yeah, and I think one thing, and I don't do many things well in life, but one thing I do is just swallow my pride and swallow my ego. And if I don't know, don't hesitate to ask. And I think that's a great lesson in life. So if Mick Price has got two horses and I can't split them and I think one should be doing this and I can't work out why it's not, I'll ring them and I'll say, can you walk me through what the process is? And they'll explain it. And a lot of the times there's certainly method to the madness at their end, and sometimes that can help me get a comprehension of what they've done and why they're doing it.
No, that's fantastic. Look, Nick, we're about to wrap this up, but before I let you go, just keen to get, obviously very early in the piece, acceptance is just probably not quite there yet for the Makybe Diva Stakes, but there's certainly some future markets out. Anything, not suggesting you're going to give us a firm tip, but anything that you sort of got your eye on in these early future markets?
Yeah, there's a couple that I think will be hard to beat down the track. We saw how sensational Zaki was getting the job done on Saturday. If that horse comes to Melbourne, I reckon he'll definitely win his next two starts. I should rephrase that. I'm extremely confident he'll win his next two starts, that being the Underwood Stakes and then the Caulfield Stakes. So if you're working around some pre-post bets, certainly in the Underwood, I think he's going to be really well placed there. He's had the run under the belt and he's a good anchor. From a Melbourne Cup perspective, Dawn Patrol, pass mark for mine at the Valley on Saturday, still at around the $16 quote. Happy to have something each way there. I think a few pipe opening runs heading into the first Tuesday in November will be beneficial as well. A horse for the VRC Derby coming over from Perth that's currently big odds called Cheerful Moment from the Lindsay Smith stable I think will run well. So there are a couple that I think might tick a few boxes and hopefully find us a winner or two in the coming months.
Fantastic, Nick. Hey, thanks for your time, mate. And look, let's hope we all get out of lockdown soon, at least on the eastern seaboard and the lower eastern seaboard, I should say, and get to the track before the sensational spring carnival comes to an end in 2 or 3 months' time.
Yeah, Damo, two things I'm desperate to do: get a cut and colour and have a beer at the races.
Cut and colour. Well, you're giving a bit away there, mate. We just thought it was a cut.
I think the sunlight's giving me away.
Good on you, Quinny. All the best, mate. Thanks again for your time, and we'll look out for those selections as we go through spring, mate. Cheers.
Thanks very much for having me today.
Thanks, Nick.